my distinct pleasure to introduce speaker Kisha Goode. Now, as a registered kinesiologist and certified health and well-being coach, Kisha is committed to helping others achieve a healthier lifestyle. With 20 years of experience in health and wellness field, she has provided exercise prescription, functional rehabilitation, health coaching, and personal wellness plan development to individuals of various ages, physical abilities, and cultural backgrounds. Kisha has a Master's of Public Health in Health Promotion and Behavioral Sciences and works as a health promotion specialist for a community health organization in the Greater Toronto area. She is currently pursuing a PhD in kinesiology and health science from York University, where her research will focus on promoting physical activity in sedentary populations. Kisha has a genuine passion for people that extends beyond her occupation and has volunteered in the community as a youth leader, a mentor, basketball coach, and community health team member. She strongly believes in living a balanced life and is an avid walker who enjoys traveling, sports, live theater, and spending time with friends and family. And on a personal note, my wife and I can attest to Kisha's expertise as she worked with us during some rehabilitation. So help me to welcome Kisha Goode. You're on, Kisha.
Thank you so much, Charles. I appreciate that warm introduction, and it was a pleasure working with you. All right, let me pull up my presentation here. So this afternoon, good afternoon, everyone. This afternoon, I will be presenting on physical activity and heart health, and it is such a pleasure to be here to present to this lovely group. So I'll start off with a definition of physical activity and exercise. Terms are used synonymously in the literature and common conversation. I will be using them interchangeably throughout this presentation, but there's actually a difference between the two. And physical activity is any bodily movement that uses muscles and requires energy. So for example,
sorry, your voice is a little low.
Okay, let me, thank you. Is that better?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, I'll continue speaking and then you can let me know.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'll just start with that definition again. Physical activity is any bodily movement that uses muscles and requires energy. So for example, lifting a laundry basket up and down the stairs would be physical activity because you're using your muscles. Whereas exercise is a type of physical activity that is carried out to improve or maintain health and or fitness. All exercise is physical activity, but not all physical activity is exercise. And in terms of physical activity recommendations, Dr. Batchelor did touch on this. The Public Health Agency of Canada, their recommendations are based on accruing physical activity. They recommend that Canadian adults accrue a minimum of 150 minutes per week of moderate, vigorous physical activity. This can be broken down into segments. It is the equivalent of 2.5 hours per week. So it could be, for example, broken down into 30 minutes, 5 days a week, or an hour one day, an hour another day, half an hour another day, or even into whatever segments work best. It is cumulative, and the main point is that you are out there being active. Now, moderate physical activity are activities that cause our hearts to beat faster. They cause us to breathe harder. And when doing these activities, we are able to talk, but not sing. Vigorous activities are those where our hearts beat quickly and we are not able to say much without catching breath. So what might be moderate for one person might be vigorous for another. It's really based on individual fitness levels and other factors, for example, age. Just for an example, let's say two people are going for a 10-minute walk around the block. Person A does not regularly engage in physical activity. Person B walks all the time. When they do that 10-minute loop, for person A, that might be vigorous. They might be completely out of breath because they're deconditioned. Whereas for person B, that was just a regular moderate workout. Another way to determine exercise intensity, so whether we're in the moderate to vigorous range, is to measure our heart rate. So the moderate range is 50 to 70% of our heart rate maximum, our maximum heart rate or heart rate max. Vigorous activity is 70 to 85% of our heart rate max. And to calculate heart rate max is 220 minus your age. So for example, let's say we have a 55-year-old individual. The maximum heart rate would be 165 beats per minute. That's 220 minus 55. And if we're working out in the moderate range, that would be 83 to 116 beats per minute. And in the vigorous range, it would be 116 to 140 beats per minute. Also, heart rate can be measured by wearing a fitness tracker. For example, a Fitbit, if it's in exercise mode, it will pick up your what zone you're in. The heart rate can also be measured by taking your pulse. So we've heard a lot today about the heart and it being a muscle and pumping. So thank you so much to all the other speakers. And just like other muscles, your heart becomes stronger with exercise. When you engage in moderate, vigorous physical activity, your muscles have an increased need for oxygen that is transported through the blood. So your heart works faster and your heart works harder and pumps faster to meet this increased demand for oxygen. Your heart rate goes up, which is the beats per minute, and your stroke volume also goes up. And the stroke volume is the amount of blood that is ejected with each heartbeat. So engaging in moderate to vigorous physical activity or exercise, it makes your heart more efficient because your heart is working harder during exercise. Therefore, it is stronger in its everyday function. As a result of exercise, your resting heart rate goes down when you are not exercising. So what that really means is that your heart is not working as hard at rest. And this is because you built up your heart, it is stronger. With one pump, it can get more blood out in a single beat. And as we heard from Maggie, if the heart is pumping, that many gallons, we can imagine that having the heart have to work less hard is good for the heart, but that's a lot of work to do in one day. And just to give another example, if you think of your bicep muscle, if you have a weak bicep muscle, you have to work harder to transport groceries from your car to your home. But as that bicep muscle gets stronger, for instance, if you've been working it out, you can move that same bag of groceries without as much effort. You are more efficient. Your arm isn't working as hard. There are 4 types of physical activity. So cardiorespiratory or aerobic, resistance or muscle strengthening, flexibility, and balance. As it pertains to heart health, the most important types of physical activity for heart health are cardiorespiratory exercises or activities and resistance exercise or activities. Flexibility and balance don't contribute directly to heart health, but they aid in the effectiveness of both cardiorespiratory and resistance exercises. And I'm going to just dive a little bit deeper into both cardiorespiratory and the resistance exercises. So with our cardiorespiratory physical activities, These improve our circulation. They improve how our body uses oxygen. They help our heart to function better. They decrease the risk of chronic diseases. These exercises use large muscle groups, and they cause our heart rate and breathing to increase while we're doing these activities. Here are some examples. We have walking, running, biking, dancing, swimming, and playing with kids. So playing with kids, that would be, with the earlier definition, that would be a physical activity that's not an exercise. But if you ever are around toddlers and running after them, for sure your heart rate will be in that moderate or maybe vigorous range. With resistance and muscle strengthening activities, these build our muscles, decrease body fat, increase metabolism. For these exercises or activities, you can use body weight, free weights, weight machines, and or exercise bands. As was mentioned in a previous presentation, the recommendation is that these exercises or physical activities are done at minimum 2 days a week to achieve health benefits. And some examples are push-ups, climbing stairs, gardening, lifting heavy objects, or carrying groceries. So we've heard today that there are certain medical conditions that are risk factors for heart disease. And these conditions are particularly prevalent within the Black community. And these are hypertension or high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, and obesity. All of these conditions are modifiable through exercise. So we'll start off looking at exercise and hypertension. And in a meta-analysis study that was conducted, the results showed that individuals who engaged in aerobic, cardio, or resistance exercises demonstrated a decrease in systolic blood pressure of 4.8 milliliters of mercury and a decrease in diastolic blood pressure of 3.19 millimeters of mercury. And this was measured right after exercise. And in this particular study, these results were significant regardless of the individual's initial blood pressure, gender, physical activity level, the type of exercise again, whether it was aerobic or resistance, and the time of day that the measurement was taken. Now, in further research, this research was conducted within a hypertensive and non-hypertensive population. They looked at exercise 24 hours after it was completed. We still see a great effect on blood pressure with an average decrease in systolic blood pressure of 3.2 milliliters of mercury and a decrease in diastolic blood pressure of 1.8 millimeters of mercury. Now, in terms of risk, the study showed that individuals who participated in vigorous physical activity demonstrated a 19% decreased risk of becoming hypertensive. Individuals who participated in moderate physical activity experienced an 11% risk of developing hypertension. And with cholesterol and aerobic exercises, the research shows that participating in exercise for about 6 months, 24 weeks, resulted in positive, significant changes in total cholesterol and low-density lipoprotein. This was a study of healthy individuals who were inactive. Research further shows that participating in aerobic exercises for 12 weeks resulted in an average high-density lipoprotein HDL improvement of 4.6%. And in terms of triglycerides and LDL, there was a decrease of 3.7% and 5% respectively. And this second study here was done in a mixed population in terms of individuals who had high cholesterol and individuals
Recording in progress.
and diabetes. So research shows that when engaging or after engaging in aerobic exercise, whole body glucose uptake increased by 12 to 48 hours after one exercise session. This research was done in a population of individuals with and without diabetes. So they experienced an increase in insulin sensitivity, and that their cells were responsive to insulin. Further research shows that engagement in aerobic exercise is associated with a 0.6% decrease in HbA1c, significant decreases in blood insulin levels, and fasting blood sugar. This was done in a 6-month study in an overweight population with type 2 diabetes. As it pertains to resistance exercises, these are also helpful in reducing HbA1c. You see here a 0.38% reduction, or point reduction rather, in HbA1c in individuals with diabetes. Now, exercise and obesity. So individuals who were overweight or obese had a higher 10-year cardiovascular risk compared to those with normal weight. In a particular study that was done in the US that surveyed almost 25,000 people, quite a big study. And what it found here was that individuals who were overweight or obese who participated in any activity, so whether it be light activity, moderate activity, or vigorous activity, the overweight population experienced a 52% decrease 10-year odds of developing cardiovascular disease. And for obese individuals, they experienced a 50% decreased odds of developing cardiovascular disease. And for normal weight individuals in this particular study, when they reached a minimum, the 150 minutes per week, they experienced a 60% lower odds of developing cardiovascular disease. So we can see the impact of activity on certain health conditions. And just a little bit about cancer here. I was asked to speak to this as well. High levels of physical activity are associated with decreased risk of certain cancers compared to low physical activity levels. So what research shows is that there's a 12 to 21% decreased risk of esophageal, uterine, colorectal, stomach, bladder, kidney, and breast cancer with high levels of physical activity. In terms of management, those individuals who had cancer, who participated in high levels of physical activity, experienced 40% lower risk of breast cancer death, 33% lower risk of prostate cancer death, and 30% lower risk of colorectal cancer death. All this being said, how do we incorporate physical activity into our daily lives? This is particularly important because sedentariness, which is activities that we do when we're sitting or reclined or laying down, is on the rise, and it causes, at least to chronic diseases, very unhealthy. And what that show is that the recommendations for sedentary time is no more than 8 hours a day. And on average, Canadians are spending 9.6 hours sedentary each day. And in a research study that was done in Ontario some years ago, it stratified physical activity by race, and it's one of very few studies to do so. In that study, it showed that Black men, that 65% of Black men were not achieving the physical activity minimum guidelines, and 71% of Black women were not achieving those guidelines. That was an Ontario study. So seeing as how us Blacks were susceptible to a lot of conditions, I share some tips to help us get active and to encourage us to continue to stay active. So for many, there might be a lack of time, and this is where physical activity comes in handy, or having that understanding that something that might not be considered exercise per se, something that is physical activity and still gain the health benefits from doing it. So one is to find exercises that fit into your current routine. So it could be that if you are working and you're working outside of your home, you have to go to the bathroom. It could be going to the bathroom that's further away from your office or on a different floor. Something as simple like that is getting activity in. When you go to the store, parking a little further back so that you are forced to walk more, taking elevators instead of stairs, just finding a way to build in activity into what you're currently doing. You could be doing, bicep curls at a desk or a table. If you're watching TV, it could be getting up during the commercials and doing some form of exercise, doing some push-ups, for example. Another tip is to schedule physical activity. The same way that in our schedules we have meetings scheduled, is putting physical activity in there. It could be, at 3 o'clock, I'm going for a walk. And that is something that's actually built into your day, built into your agenda. Active transportation. So this is, instead of driving to run errands, it could be biking, walking. So for example, if you have, a drugstore close to you and you need to pick up, let's say, a greeting card, a birthday card, you could walk to the drugstore instead of driving. And I know it's not as attractive to walk on days like this when the weather is poor, but give you some tips for that as well. And another way to incorporate physical activity into your daily life is doing physical activity in smaller bouts. So you may not have half an hour to dedicate to physical activity, but 10-minute bouts, 5-minute bouts, then something like if you're waiting at the coffee maker or the microwave, you could do some squats or some calf raises, do some muscle strengthening. There's just little ways to build in activity into your day. Walking meetings. So if you're on a phone meeting, you could make this a walking meeting where instead of sitting stationary, you're actually walking around. Could be walking outside, walking at home, depending on your situation, but building in ways to get activity. And for some, I know it's hard to be motivated to work out, or if you are motivated and you fall off, keeping that motivation, something that we all struggle with. So first is to find activities that you enjoy. Not everyone will be a runner or love to run, but when you find something that you enjoy, you're more likely to stick to it. So for some, the gym isn't what they like to do. So, spending money for a gym, it doesn't help with physical activity, with getting physical activity, because they're not going to go. But find something that you love to do. Find an accountability partner. Now, this could be somebody who either you tell them that you're going to be working out and they hold you to it, or somebody that you work out with. Maybe there's somebody who will knock on your door and you'll go for a walk. And knowing that this person is depending on you, one, and that you're depending on them, it will help to hold you accountable to fulfilling that activity. Setting out clothes from the night before. So, sometimes we have great intentions. I mean, when I say we, I'm definitely including myself. And we wake up and just not feeling it. Setting out clothes from a night before is a great way to, great hack. That way you wake up, the clothes is ready, and you're out the door. I will share, I walk, as Charles mentioned in my bio, I'm an avid walker and I walk year round, including days like today. And one thing that I've had to do is just set my mind to the fact that it's cold. So it's like, I don't even check the forecast. It's like, I know I'll be wearing layers. I know I'm going to go out. So having that prep from before helps you to carry out these exercises. Give yourself healthy rewards. You're working hard. Nothing's wrong with treating yourself. And then also a reward is knowing that as you commit to physical activity and adding and reaching that 150 minutes minimum, your body is thanking you and you are reducing your risks of certain conditions and maintaining a healthy heart. Indoor outdoor options, like in case that you had plans to go for a run or go to the park and it rains or snows, having an option, like let's say popping, I was going to say popping in a video, but turning on YouTube and just dancing to music for half an hour. Just an option, something so that if one plan doesn't work out, there's another plan to keep you motivated. And a last suggestion in terms of how we can incorporate activity in our daily lives is through a step challenge. I know that many people thrive on competition, and with phones there are apps that collect steps, or they have fitness trackers, those collect steps, and you can have a friendly challenge where a friendly step challenge, if this is something that you enjoy, some people to join you, and together you can work towards both your health and collective health. And just wanted to thank you for your time, and I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Kisha. Are there any questions? Are there any questions for Kisha? One person remarked, if you have an Apple Watch or Fitbit, there are tons of groups to work out with in various ways, like the app challenges. It's important to do activities that you believe. There are also fitness apps with incentives like discounts on products, or even points to obtain different products. So yeah, I believe in that as well. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for your practical tips. I found them really practical. I'm going to incorporate them myself. Thank you.